this ride.
This is the last broadcast of the year for me.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Meantime, we're going to bring in my colleague, Ashley Banfield, host of Banfield. She is on the phone. We also have former FBI agent Tracy Walder, CIA agent as well. She'll be joining us live as well. Ashley, let's start with you. I mean, this is almost 2 months in the making. Also a case you have been following closely with our colleague, Bryan Enton. This is huge news this morning.
It's a big exhale, I think, for not just the University of Idaho community and the students and the parents of all those students and the community itself in Moscow, but it's a big exhale for everybody across the country who was not only worried for them, but also worried about the prospect that this could be something bigger. It could be a potential serial killer, because the modus operandi was so unimaginable and so difficult to understand. Who does this? That's the question. Who does that? And to now have someone in custody, Nicole, we are shifting from what's been
much later.
There's now been an arrest in the case of those Idaho murders. Again, 4 students murdered on November 13th. We do have the mugshot of the individual who's now been arrested in connection to that, and want to put it up here on your screen. So this, again, is just a developing story. We're keeping track of right here for you on Live Now from Fox. A suspect in the killing of those students was arrested in eastern Pennsylvania, and law enforcement has been confirming that with our Fox News digital teams. Now, arrest paperwork filed in Monroe County Court said Bryan Christopher Kohberger, 28 years old, was being held for extradition to Idaho, where he faces a first-degree murder charge. A law enforcement official did confirm the arrest, also with the Associated Press, on condition of anonymity, because obviously they have a lot of work ahead of them still to do, and they said they could not publicly discuss details of the investigation ahead of a formal announcement, which is expected later here on Friday. Now, those 4 students, again, were stabbed to death in a rental home near campus sometime in the early morning hours of November 13th. And the slayings initially had mystified those in charge of the investigation. They did say that they were not able to at first name a suspect or even locate a murder weapon for multiple weeks. But as this case broke out, law enforcement had asked the public's help, which did mean that they then had thousands upon thousands of tips come into the police department. They combed through those tips, searched each and every single option. FBI call center had to also help be directed to...
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
And we begin with breaking news, a stunning turn of events in the murder of 4 University of Idaho college students. Multiple law enforcement sources tell News 4 police have taken a man into custody in Pennsylvania. Adam Harding is live in East Stroudsburg. Adam?
And Gus, good morning to you. We just got to the courthouse within the last 10 minutes. According to law enforcement sources, they tell News 4 that a 25-year-old man in the Scranton area here in Pennsylvania has been taken into custody in connection to the murder of those 4 University of Idaho students. This all breaking late this morning. The murders in the small town of Moscow certainly stunning that region, and this becoming a story of national interest for weeks now. 4 University of Idaho students, 3 women and 1 man, were found stabbed to death in their beds in a rental home, which was near the campus back on November 13th. The local medical examiner revealing that the victims were likely asleep and had some defensive wounds. Again, this morning, the big breaking news here that a man is in custody, according to multiple law enforcement sources, in the murder of those 4 University of Idaho students in the Scranton area here in Pennsylvania. Police in the here in Pennsylvania planning a 4 p.m. news conference that is expected to happen in Moscow, Idaho, which is where this has been developing now for several weeks. Again, that is at 4 o'clock this afternoon, that news conference to discuss the arrest. Not much to work off of, but again, the sources telling us that a 25-year-old man is in custody. Of course, we are working to learn much more about the details of that arrest. Watch for our live continuing coverage both on air and online throughout the day here on Channel 4. Gus, we'll send things back to you.
"15 minutes later."
Police have made an arrest in connection to the murders investigation of 4 college students in Idaho. 2 federal law enforcement sources tell CNN that the FBI took a suspect into custody in northeastern Pennsylvania. The arrest comes nearly 7 weeks after the students were found stabbed to death in a home near the University of Idaho campus. Police in Moscow, Idaho will hold a news conference later this afternoon. And CNN's Veronica Miracle is live in Moscow, Idaho with the very latest. Veronica?
Well, Amara, as you said, those federal sources telling our CNN's Josh Campbell and Mark Morales that an arrest has been made. We understand that at this point it is a man in his 20s, but beyond that, there are very few details coming out at this hour. I did speak with police this morning where they said there is going to be that news conference at 1 p.m. today. They would not tell me any further details, but just for context, this is the first press conference that the police department has held in weeks. We understand that this is going to be obviously a major development where they're going to be talking about that arrest, but it has been nearly 7 weeks.
This is how legends are born.